Welcome everybody to the Magical Mystery School, and thank you so much for coming back and likes and subscribes and all that good stuff. And here in this channel, what we do is we look at the big astrological aspects, transits that are going on for this week. And hopefully do a little bit of education too with the school part. So anyway, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. It was very sad about the shootings in Washington, D.C. Personally, it was a very quiet, peaceful Thanksgiving for me. I wasn't traveling, so it kind of seems like the shutdown stuff that was going on right when Mercury went retrograde the first time back there at the beginning of the month has really calmed down quite a bit. So really think about how that Mercury retrograde, how it worked for you personally. So you can use that next time. Okay, so, and we did have the full moon December 4th. I'm recording this on December 3rd, and we'll hopefully publish this on the 5th. And I'm really seeing that full moon as kind of denoting the beginning of the end. Okay, so that full moon, the sun was up here in Sag at about 13 degrees, and the moon was down here in Gemini. So that opposition, that's what makes the full moon there. Because things are really going to change. I really want you to get prepared for this next new moon that's going to be happening about 28 degrees Sagittarius, okay, on December 19th. Because, oh, that's not staying in the frame there, is it? Okay, because that's super important because we have so much going on around the 19th. Atlas is going to be whizzing by Earth, the closest it's ever going to get to Earth. It's at 28 degrees Sag, and the galactic center is at 27 degrees. So that's kind of cool. And then the solstice happens just 2 days later, and that makes sense, right? If the sun's at 28 on the 19th and the 29th, or the 20th, it'll be at the 29th degree, and on the 21st, it'll be flipping over into Capricorn. Because just remember, all these signs have 30 degrees, but when the sun gets to 29 degrees, 59 minutes, and then it doesn't flip to 30, it flips right over to 0 degrees Capricorn. So that's what happens at the solstice. And you'll need to know this for something else we're going to talk about with Neptune here a little bit later. So this week we're going to talk a little bit more about Mercury, because it's going retrograde and it's doing its, or direct now, and it's going to do its third and final hit of this beautiful grand water trine that we've been having. So that's really been supporting us a lot through these times. And then we're also going to talk about Mars, that's going to be up here about 25 Sag, because it's going to start kicking up some dirt around here. And you know, Mars, it can get kind of nasty sometimes. So we'll talk about that. But the first thing I want to talk about is the super biggie is Neptune. Neptune is going to station direct at 29 degrees, 23 minutes on December 10th at 4:21 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, this is mega important for a multitude of reasons, and I can't stress it enough to you guys, because you know, just things like, well, and we can't really separate Saturn totally. It's at about 25 degrees, so it's only 4 degrees or so behind Neptune at this point, but it's a faster mover, so it's going to start catching up to it. But first off, it takes Neptune 165 years to go all the way around the wheel, spending about 15 years in each sign. And so right there, I mean, that's a transit that happens every 165 years. And then Saturn, it takes it 28 to 30 years to get all the way around the wheel. That's why we say people aren't really adults until they've had one Saturn cycle, until they get up in their 30s there. But this really, what this means is with these planets going over, turning direct now, and let's look at our wobble sheet here. Here we go, December 10th, Neptune is going direct at that 29:23, and feel free to take a screenshot of this. Saturn just went direct, so now both of these guys are going to go direct. And like I said, Saturn's faster, so it's going to catch up to Neptune, well, by February 20th, actually. But once these planets start going direct, we're going to feel this energy all going towards Aries, which is the whole, the primordial degree of the whole zodiac here. An astrologer, Heather Entworth, I think I'm saying her last name right, she went back 6,000 years to 4,000, I think it was 341 BC, to find the last time that Saturn and Neptune conjuncted at 0 Aries. So right there, that's huge. Much less that Pluto is sextiling. That's a 60-degree aspect. So 30, 60. Remember, each one of these are 30 degrees, and it's right at the very, very beginning. So it's sextiling. Saturn, Neptune will be lined up once they get into Aries. And we also have Uranus sextiling this from the Taurus Gemini wobble area. And just to remind you what that wobble, what I'm referring to there, and new subscribers and such, is that this is tracking planets that were going retrograde, direct, in and across from one sign to the next. Now, Jupiter went retrograde and direct in 2025, but it stayed all within Cancer, so we didn't worry about that so much with the wobble. And same with Pluto did its wobble in 2024 between Capricorn and Aquarius, and now, though, it is in Aquarius for good, basically. Okay, so when we have these two planets together, we have Neptune, who's our most spiritual planet out there, and then we've got Saturn that's firmly placed in the 3D, right? It's the last planet we can see with our naked eye, so it's, it's one of the ancient rulers and has been around as long as people could look up into the sky here. Now, this really marks a real paradigm shift for everybody in the planet. Whether you believe in spirituality or not, you're going to be getting some upgrades here. Now, and especially think about Russia, because this Saturn-Neptune conjunction has been like when they had their revolution back in the early 1900s. When Stalin, the year Stalin died and the same year Putin was born, was a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. The Berlin Wall coming down and the end of the Soviet Union was a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So let's really keep an eye on Russia, too, to sort of lead the way. And I think what we're going to be seeing is rulers of a lot of countries, not just Russia, are going to be falling to the wayside with this Neptune-Saturn, because Saturn is one of our leaders, that's for sure. Okay. Now, and these changes, these upgrades that we're hearing about, and maybe that Marge gal is a good example of someone getting upgrade. I'm not sure. I don't 100% trust her, but we'll see. That our bodies will even be changing. The DNA, there's certain parts of our DNA that's not turned on, that's just sort of sitting there. And maybe those are going to turn on. And what I'm really super excited about is the children that are being born with this configuration in their charts. Okay? I mean, what a bunch of powerhouses. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll be around to see it in 30 years. But those of you who are having children, pay attention to your children. Well, I've always been a big believer that the next generation is always more powerful than the last generation. I mean, or more evolved, that kind of thing. Okay, now, now remember too, when I was first talking about this way back on, maybe, I mean, I think that's what got me to write up this list, is I was really concerned that this November, you know, we would just be limping into December, just overwhelmed with darkness, basically, with all these planets at these late degrees and in Pisces and that kind of thing. I thought we'd really be losing it, you know. But I think this grand trine has helped give us that support that we've needed. And yes, there are dark things happening. I mean, what's going on with the ice people? I saw one thing, just let ice melt. That's going to come into play here a little bit too. I saw somebody with a poster at a rally that said that. But anyway, you know, we do have a lot of, you know, scary things going on. Murders being committed in our names in the Caribbean, and you know, Pisces is mutable water here. It can be very chaotic, you know, with that mutability, but it can also make big leaps too. So we'll kind of see how that comes out here. So just remember, things are dissolving, like hopefully ice will one of these days here. And especially for the old, with both of these planets now headed for Aries. So if there's anything in your life that feels like it needs to be let go of, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Okay. Now, I looked up the Sabian symbol and it said 30 degrees Pisces, but just to let you know, that's for Sabian symbols. Oh, what those Sabian symbols are, a woman back, I think in like the 1930s or so, she did a channeling for every single degree, all 360 degrees of the zodiac. And the one she came up with for this very last degree of Pisces was a great stone face. And of course, that made me think of Easter Island right off the bat. Oh, here, I'm going to just put you on pause for a second here. Okay, so this is, I actually bought these at a restaurant. These were they had drinks in them with umbrellas and all that stuff. But I said, oh, I want to buy these. That's the Easter Island face. So that's the first thing I thought of as when I read that. But basically, what she was talking about for her interpretation was that we can't hide anything from anybody, really, especially when we get to this very end of the zodiac here. Even though we think we're, you know, fooling everybody and that kind of thing. Because remember, and I think this was appropriate for Pisces. Pisces is glamour and, you know, like Hollywood, and, you know, things aren't quite what you see. And I was talking about Pisces as the drag queen. Yes, because I don't know if you've ever seen a drag queen show, but I'll never forget the first one I saw. And I was just mesmerized by this floor show. And they were all men, but they were dancing and singing, and they were beautiful, and they had these fabulous costumes on and all that kind of good drag queen stuff. And I was just amazed at how they could pull the wool over my eyes so easily or look so different. And that's Pisces for sure. Okay, so with this stone face, just remember though, whatever is inside of you will show up, and you'll be able to see other people. Okay, so when you get an impression of someone, and go with it, stick with it, even if it may seem a little, you know, out of balance, or, you know, not quite sure, you know, what you've heard about this person, you're probably seeing the real person. Another thing this made me think of, if anybody's ever seen this movie, I Heart Huckabees. I love this movie. It's got Lily Tomlin, Dustin Hoffman, Mark Wahlberg, Naomi Watts, Jude Law. If you're watching this video, you would enjoy this movie. It's one of the best metaphysical movies out there. But in that movie, the Jude Law character says, how can I not be myself? And that's true. You know, even if we think we're fooling other people, we're not. Deep down, we all know what everybody's doing and all that kind of stuff. So just be, just be aware that you're not going to be able to hide things. And society's not going to be able to hide things. Epstein tapes. Anyway, but we are having this forward motion. So, and our frequencies are changing. So if you feel, you might feel a little under the weather, or maybe a little sleeping too much, or not sleeping enough, or that kind of thing, that's probably because your energies, your frequencies are upgrading or shifting. So again, say goodbye to the old, and it might even be your own old identity. Feel okay about, I'm going to just make myself a whole new person here, and change things. That's okay. That's what this time is all about. Oh, and one thing, I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but Saturn and Neptune, they do pretty regularly conjunct every 36 years because, Saturn takes about 30, but Neptune is moving during that 30 time. So it takes about 36 for Saturn to catch up to that. Okay, now, just talking about Neptune in general, we talked about the glamour and the deception, but it's also one of the most compassionate, kindest signs. If you do meet really, especially high-level Pisces, oh my God, they're the kindest people you'll ever meet. Now, some of the negative things, and this is true for Neptune too, because remember, Neptune rules Pisces, so they have very similar energies. And just an FYI, Venus is exalted in Pisces. But some of the more negative traits of both this sign and planet can be a con artist, self-deception as well as deceiving other people, escapism, and that can be like through drugs or any kind of addiction at all, and just being kind of confused and such. And just in general, Pisces and Neptune rules oil and gas, as well as, our imagination and creativity, and also places of confinement. And that can be hospitals as well as jails. So anywhere where you're kind of stuck in a building, or or stuck in an institution, that would be kind of a Pisces Neptune thing too. Now, one thing we have really gone forward with since Neptune has been in Pisces is that this type of spirituality, astrology, psychic readings, all that kind of stuff has just really become much, much more accepted. People don't think, when I tell them about astrology or something like that, I don't get these like, ooh, how could you even think about something like that, And these changes happen throughout the world, I'm sure. Okay, one other thing I want to mention about Pisces, and I said about a couple of weeks ago, one of the catchphrases was, poor, poor, pitiful Pisces. Well, yes, victimhood is one of the negativities of this sign. But I want you, if you do have any kind of negative energies coming up, I want you to take those negative energies and do what you can to turn them into something good to help somebody else. Even if you've had a really bad experience somehow, see if you can, work with a group where you can take your experience and help others. Because anything in Pisces, if you can move on to helping others, you are using and especially if you can help others without any acknowledgement, like, oh yeah, I just did my hospice volunteer yesterday, if you can just do it without having to tell people about it, that's even a higher level. Okay. And like I said, I think with this crossing over to the Aries, these Epstein files, I think is going to reveal more than we could even imagine at this point. I think the depths, it's not going to be just child sex trafficking. I think it's going to be, or maybe on a scale that we have no idea about. I mean, there's still 400 children missing from when they did the child separation policy at the border back during you-know-who's first administration. what happened to those 400 children? You know, anyway, I'm getting off course here, but it could be money laundering that comes out in these Epstein files, just all sorts of duplicity between countries and such like that. So, you know, let's keep, you know, it's I think it's going to be more, because that's what a lot of psychics have been saying. This is going to be more than we can even imagine. And you know, it's already more than I could imagine. I mean, I heard Deepak Chopra was on one of these emails. I mean, it was just a simple email. He emailed Epstein saying, "Oh, how's your court case going?" And Jeffrey emailed back, "Oh, it's going fine. I think it's all going to work out." And then Deepak Chopra just texted or emailed back, "Oh, good. Glad to hear it." What? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. And just to let you know, too, now that Saturn's direct, Neptune's direct, there's no going back. We're going forward, whether we like it or not. We're going into Aries for sure. Okay, so the truth is coming out with this 29th degree here. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys, with especially this, you know, this period here, now until Neptune goes into Aries, keep track of your dreams, program your dreams, take notes, you know, do the best you can to turn off that voice in your head that's babbling all the time. And just remember, those of you who know, who are Virgos, Pisces oppose Virgo. That's probably one of the most critical signs in the zodiac. So if you hear anything critical coming out of that inner voice, just even something simple like, "Oh shoot, I could have done that better," or "Oh, if I only known," or, you know, those kind, you know, something, stop yourself right now, right then and there in the minute, and if you can, and try to just tell yourself, you know, "I'm doing the best I can here," something like that. Or the one I like the best is, "I'm on my path. I'm on time. I'm doing everything right on time. I may not be able to see the outcome or understand it at this time, but I'm doing okay." And just keep telling yourself that, and you'll be kind of amazed what starts to happen anyway. And do try to replace those negative things with joy, uplift your vibration. If you've got some sort of job that you don't want to do, what can you do to make it fun? Can you put music on, promise yourself a reward, do something silly around the house, or whatever it is to make it fun for you. Because once Neptune and Saturn go into Aries, this whole upgrade, evolutionary stuff, mind and body and spirit and soul here, is going to get on steroids. So just be prepared. Next spring is going to be, woo! We'll be here to go through it together, though, that's for sure. Okay, now let's go back to these more personal planets. Like I said, with Mercury has gone direct on the 29th. It got back to like 20 degrees Scorpio, and now it's going to go forward. It's in its shadow. And just to let you know, and I explained that pretty in detail last week, I'm always going to put the last week's video, a link for it at the end of this video, so that, you know, if you feel like going back and looking at what happened last week or what's going on, then you're welcome to do so. Okay, now Mercury, so on December 6th, Mercury is still going to be in Scorpio, is going to trine Jupiter in Cancer, so water to water. And this is going to be the final activation of this grand trine here. So remember, with Jupiter, we'll feel better, but watch out for that overconfidence, overcommitting, over everything that you can say. But luckily, on December 7th, Mercury is going to trine Saturn. Now, remember, the Saturn and Jupiter are kind of the expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction, okay? And so this Saturn is going to kind of help us stay on track a little bit more, kind of, you know, reel us in from this overconfidence here. Then on December 10th, Mercury is going to oppose Uranus. Now, we've been here before, but just get ready for explosions to go off, right? Because especially in the communication world, because Mercury is actually just the lower octave of Uranus. So they're really very, very similar energies. Just Mercury tends to be more personal. Uranus tends to be more for the collective. But just get ready. There's December 10th, and there's a lot more going on too. Because remember, December 10th is the day that Neptune stations, stops, and goes direct. But then we've got this huge bit of energy, and of course that's making that final kite up in the sky there. And what we love so much about that kite is that trine energy sometimes can get kind of lazy in there. It's like, oh, it feels so good, I'm just going to stay here, right? And we'll go around and around this beautiful grand trine. Well, this having a planet here at this apex point really gives the energy an outlet. So that's what I mean. If you feel an expansion of energy, an explosion of energy around this time, move with it. Don't try to stop it. And then on December 11th, to really finish things off, Mercury's going to trine Neptune here, between those two there. And on that same day, Mercury will go, I almost said that Uranus, Mercury's going to go into Sagittarius. So that will mean this whole grand trine is going to start to fade. Now, the reason we've had, again, so many of these kites, and we're going to talk about yods again here in a minute, is because of all these sextiles that we've got in the wheel right now. That's where, you know, Pluto 60 degrees, so it's, you know, 30-60. So Pluto's sextiling these. Uranus at the end of Taurus, 30-60, sextiling this these planets also. So we've got a lot of opportunity for kites because of that. Okay, so with Mercury going into Sag here, you know, Mercury in Scorpio was kind of, you know, sarcastic, wants to do research, is a great detective. It can really wiggle the secrets out of you. Fixed water, though, so very strong opinions, especially with Mercury there, okay? And it's very, very intuitive. All the water signs are Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. And they will say what they feel, and if they don't feel comfortable saying it, they won't say anything at all. Okay, but now with Mercury going into Sag, that's a whole new ball game. Mercury in Sag is kind of the salesman of the zodiac here, very optimistic. Yeah, this can do that, this can do this, that, all, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they're supposed to be known for having kind of a sexy voice. I'd be interested. See, I would love for someone to do research, like do singers and see what all their Mercuries are in, you know, that kind of thing. Now, being up in Sag, it's more, you know, Mercury in Sag kind of wants to go along with the public thought, what's motivating society as a whole. Can be fairly prophetic, though, because this is mutable fire. So that's fast, fast, fast. You know, boom, boom, boom. You know, they're connecting all these dots just like in an instant. So they seem like they're being prophetic, but they're very much just using their own intuition to really connect the dots and figure out what's going to happen in the future. Now, Mercury in Sag also mental freedom. They even though they do want to conform to society, they will say what they think, and sometimes too much so. But because of this desire to be, you know, part of the institution, sometimes they can get into some hypocrisy there. So watch out for that for sure. Okay, and then last but not least, we've been talking about, I'll just leave Mercury there. Mars is up here in Sag too, but at about more like 28 degrees. Okay, so quite a bit further along here, almost to the end. Oh, did I say 28? 25, around about 25 degrees that Mars is in Sagittarius. And on December 7th, here we go again. So that's that final day of that big, beautiful water trine. But we are going to have Mars is going to inconjunct Jupiter. Okay. So remember what an inconjunct was? We talked about that quite a bit there. It's an aspect of 150 degrees. So here we are at the end of Sag. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. And Cancer is at 25 degrees, or Jupiter's at 25 degrees Cancer. So anyway, it's going to be making this big inconjunct. And then on the 8th and the 9th, Mars is going to square Saturn. Oops, that was too short. Okay, so that's really going to really give us that. You know, Mars is one of our faster go, 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 go. Saturn's one of, let's think about it a little bit. So we've really got this go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. Just like we have hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. So even though we have that big grand trine going on, it may be difficult to feel balanced, all right? And just to let you know, and we'll talk about this more next week, then Mars goes on to inconjunct Uranus on December 13th, okay, which makes one of our yods, which we'll talk about more next week for sure. Because just remember, Mars is just the leader of the pack. Then we've got the Sun, and then we've got Venus, and then we got Mercury, all coming over, going to make this yod here. So it's going to be a fun, and that's going to happen towards the end of December here. So anyway, and don't forget that new moon on December 19th. I want you guys to already start thinking about that. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. And just remember, from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere.